All right, guys, Kevin Hale here on this Sunday night. It is September the 9th, 2018. Shooting from the Lip Studios, a.k.a. my bedroom. We're talking sports. It's a round of sports shots night. Totally dedicated to sports. Kind of looking at it from a blue lens. Last night, Saturday night, a historic night for the University of Kentucky football team. For Big Blue Nation, the fans who have been sitting tight, patient for 31 years, and that streak has officially ended. Joining me tonight to talk UK football. We'll also be talking Louisville football, SEC football, and whatever is going on in the outside of in the National Football League. NFL started today. Talk some games there, key games there. But tonight, James Streble. James is does a UK post-game show on ESPN 680 here in Louisville. James, what is up, my brother?
Hey, just hanging out and still basking in the glory from last night's victory. I've been floating on Cloud 9 all day long, as I'm sure every Kentucky fan has been. It's a surreal feeling, but I'll take it.
Yeah, me too. Joining me tonight also, coming out of my city, Louisville, Kentucky, a friend of mine is a Shooting from the Lip contributor, Mr. Butch Bibb. Butch, welcome.
Hey, thank you, Kevin, man. I'm like James, man. I'm excited for my game last night. Not much sleep last night, but it was well worth it.
Let me, I got my boy. Oh, he called back in, Max. He was just calling. I couldn't get to him in time. All right, let's see. Max Godby will be joining us. Max, again, he's was doing Cameron Mills, and he was doing his BBN Chalk Talk show tonight. We'll get him on soon, but let's jump right in. James, the Kentucky Wildcats at the Swamp were 13.5-point underdogs. So from the Vegas perspective, it did not appear they really had a chance. I mean, 13.5 is, 2 touchdowns, and that's a pretty convincing margin from a Vegas standpoint. But nonetheless, our boys showed up, played their asses off, and walked away with the win. Give us real quick your take on last night, James.
Honestly, I was a little skeptical to buy into the hype because of last year and the way that game ended. And I think everybody in Big Blue Nation bought in last year. I mean, you saw that stadium. It was a week-long just expectation to go and beat Florida at home. And this year, I think a lot of people were just kind of like, I've been there, done that. I've been disappointed for 31 years straight. Why buy in now? Last year was the best chance they had. Dan Mullen's a coach there now, and he was 8-1 against Kentucky at Mississippi State. So didn't have a lot of good feelings, especially since against Central Michigan, there were times where Kentucky just looked flat out awful in the first half. But the Kentucky Wildcats came out and they dominated both lines of scrimmage. I would hesitate to say that they were better than Florida in just about every position on the field. And
Max, you there?
Yeah, right here.
I'm trying to connect you. Hold on. Better yet, hang up. I will call you.
Okay, sounds good. Throw long. The guy's got a great arm. Mm-hmm. And then the defense is the real deal. I mean, that's all I can say. I think that for the first time, I can remember, Kentucky has an SEC caliber defense. And also, we have, in my opinion, the best offensive player in the SEC with Benny Snell and the best defensive player in the SEC with Josh Allen. So Kentucky just outclassed Florida on their home field, and it was amazing to watch.
Right. Butch, your take.
Yes, sir.
Jump in.
Well, a lot about what he said there, but just as a lifelong fan, the last time I saw him win the game was in 1986. And, every year, this is the best team we've got. This year, this is the year. And then, just the downright heartbreak that you walk out of that place with. And for them to go down there and just dominate that line, I think, one thing I took from the game last night is how many games have you seen in an SEC game, especially where our quarterback is standing back there and getting to scan the field without any pressure. It just showed how well that our offensive line and the pancake block by Stallings. I mean, they manhandled them up front. I think the one big thing I took from it was just how much time Wilson actually had to stand there and scan the field for receivers to get open.
That's a good point.
So it was just an awesome feeling seeing them actually live up to the game and break that daggone streak. So
you mentioned again 31-year streak since 1986. 1986, I was 1 year removed from high school. If that tells you my age, probably does. But but Max, of the Stoops era, UK, I think it's safe to say Stoops is in year 6. So his first 5 seasons, he's had more seasons where his team, to me, was the better of, Kentucky and Florida on the field. The results we didn't get the results, past few years. What was so different about last night, Max? Max, hello. Max, you there? I just went through that assertion for nothing. All right.
It was really good, though.
It was really good. All right. Well, let me jump in. James, same thing.
Yeah, I think the difference is the combination of talent and depth. Kentucky's always had, not always had, but with Stoops and then sometimes with Rich Brooks, there would be spots here or there where Kentucky was strong. Like with Rich Brooks, there were, you had Andre Woodson at quarterback. You had good running back with Derek Locke. The receivers were pretty good. But then the offensive line may not have been that great, or the defense wasn't always, up to part of the offense, or vice versa. I think this is the first time that you have players at every position, and you have that depth and that veteran leadership. I mean, you have Josh Allen's, a senior. Darius West is an upperclassman. Mike Edwards, upperclassman. Benny Snell is a junior. Terry Wilson's a young guy, but he's played, JUCO college football. He's been in systems before. C.J. Conrad is a senior. So you have the combination of talent, depth, and experience, and this is what Stoops has been building on for 6 years now. And it takes a long time to build a football program. It's not like when John Calipari walks into Kentucky and they're good the next season. Right. It takes a long time. And Stoops has taken his lumps with the fan base and with the detractors. But he his mantra is always, we're going to go back to work. And he's done just that. So last night was the culmination of the fruits of his labor. Now, it's not over yet. We still have a lot of games left to play, but that's got to make him feel good that his plan is finally starting to bear results.
Max,
I think he's learning to coach too. I mean, he was a first-year head coach, so some of the mistakes he's made, and he owns up to them, but. He's learning, and getting better with his staff and everything. I think it's just he's growing as well,
James, let's take us back last night, post-game. What was the fan reaction during your show?
A lot of disbelief, a lot of, older Kentucky fans calling in and just reminiscing about the days of yore when Kentucky would lose in inexplicable fashion and just disbelief. And honestly, they were emotional. A couple of guys said, they were on the verge of tears, and it had to have been emotional if you've been watching for that long. I'm 36. I was just a kid when Kentucky last beat Florida, and I don't have the same experiences. I've seen a lot of heartbreaking losses myself, but to watch that long and to be a fan for all your life and to finally see that must have been really something for those individuals. And we even had one Louisville fan, call in and congratulate us. So that was something. And it wasn't in a snarky fashion either. It was, sincere, and he was happy for us. And he had a lot of time in his hands since the Louisville game. Didn't get started until really late, so he watched the Kentucky game and was pretty impressed with some of the players. But overall, it was a really happy post-game show, and there wasn't a lot to pick on as far as negatives, so it was just positives all around.
After the game, just the interviews with the players, Butch, our man Cash Daniel is channeling Stone Cold Steve Austin. I mean, he's got his WWE promo down pat. And,
he does.
But he's backing it up. His field performance, 22 tackles in these two games. My understanding is that he's leading the SEC. He's playing his ass off. The defense has been busting ass. I mean, it's been a good team effort so far, Butch.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, especially, like Cash leading the SEC with tackles at, I think, 22 after two games, just, doing a great job. And that defense, man, they were gelling big time. So Allen's just a major force off that edge, too. So, what about, like, Middleton last night? It's like before, Bohanna, he goes out hurt. That would have killed us in the past. And like James was saying earlier, the depth that Stoops has built, Middleton comes in and we don't miss a beat last night, So
right.
That depth is really showing up now.
And that's huge. The depth factor has been our Achilles heel, for years, forever in the SEC. And finally, James, we can, when we sub in, when we take the first team guys come out, we don't really lose a lot. And that means that's huge for us, James.
Well, take, for instance, like a guy like Chris Westry, when he committed his freshman year, he's a four-star guy that chose Kentucky over Auburn. If you'll remember his freshman year, he was like an emerging star, and we were talking about him as like a first-round draft pick, and he had that great interception at South Carolina. They ended up winning that game. And these past two games, he's made two major boneheaded plays, and he found himself on the bench, and he hasn't been back in. And they put in Lonnie Johnson, who wasn't as heralded, but darn it, if he's not playing well and better than Westry. So,
agreed. Didn't Lonnie take most of his time last year, didn't he? So
he did, yeah.
Late in the season, yes.
So, again, it's just you don't miss a beat when somebody goes down. And, again, look at the Landon Young injury. I mean, E.J. Price started last night. That offensive line is playing really well. I mean, can you imagine them with Landon Young? How good that whole line would be. But, again, the players that Stoops has stockpiled, and he's redshirting guys every year, they're just as good as the starters, and it's amazing. Like Butch was saying, Quentin Bohanna goes down, you're like, oh my God, here we go again with the defensive line. And Adrian Middleton came in and played really well, and they got pressure on Franks all night long, and the lineman did a great job of opening holes and letting guys like Cash Daniel fly in there and just level Franks. I mean, that hit he laid on him in that first quarter. Oh man! But
nice.
It's nice to not have to worry about guys going out to take a breather or with an injury.
Right.
And he keeps us fresher in that fourth quarter too. We didn't look as before. Past games, from watching them play. I'm sure both of you, Kevin, we've watched, a long time, been in our 50s. It's just, you see, the fourth quarter, our defense have been on the field so long, we're just wore out, and we're not like that now because we have the depth to back them up where they can get some rest. So, especially with that running game, it helps keep their defense off the field.
Well, nice segue, Butch. Let's talk about the running game. Another impressive game from our guy Biddy Snell. Let's see, what was it? 175 yards, 27 carries.
175.
Again, the guy comes in with the chip on his shoulder. It's just he's giving it 100% every play. He is trying to make a name for himself. Put him in the conversation as one of the best running backs out there. James, your take on Benny these first 2 weeks?
Look, I just hope that the opposing teams don't get the hint, and each week they come out and disrespect him in some way, shape, or form, because you're right. He plays with a huge chip on his shoulder. He's a guy that does not shy away from contact like some of these running backs do. He goes at it full force. And like Butch was saying, in the fourth quarter when a defense is sucking wind, that's Benny time. I mean, that's his money. That's his money quarter, because he thrives off of that. And if y'all remember that play last night, he ran for a first down where he put his head down and just leveled that Florida defender.
Yeah.
I thought he killed him. I thought the guy killed him.
Like he got hit by a truck, man.
Yeah. Max.
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to get back up.
Let me check. Max, are you there? Hello, Max. I see he's on. I think he can hear us, but we can't hear him. Can you all hear him? Just checking it. Maybe it's me.
No, I can't.
Max, you have your phone on mute by chance? Just checking. Maybe not. Anyways. But he's with us in spirit. Max Godby. Go to you, Butch.
Then he just seems to get fresh in that fourth quarter. He gets stronger as the game goes,
Well, I mean, it's
crazy.
It does help being able to Rose have him take some snaps.
Terry Wilson with 107 yards last night too. I mean, did King even play last night?
He did not go on the carry. No.
Okay,
no, he did not get in.
I don't recall.
Is that Max? Max, can you hear us? I think Max.
Yes,
I think Max is somehow on my video screen. Can you see? Are you in your car, Max?
I have to travel, unfortunately.
Yeah, he is.
There he is.
He is on. You see him? You all see him, right? Yeah, he's on.
We can hear him now.
Well, he's on video. He's on my video.
I didn't know you had to turn the camera on. I thought as long as the microphone was set to Skype, you were fine.
Well, it should be. I'm not using video with the other guys, but if you want to be the star of the show tonight, I think everyone would oblige. So
there you go.
all I'm saying is I'm a little disappointed, guys. Obviously, you don't listen to my show at all because me and technology don't mix. And it's almost like it was either you don't follow my show or you just said, "Oh, let's just see what happens."
Yeah.
It'd be
No, I think it's a combination of it's familiar territory with Max. He just comes in and he's like right at home. Nothing works, so it's all.
But I have been listening. Listening, and I agree.
It's your turn to talk, Max. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Give us your summation.
All right, so this is what I'm from last year when it came to just the ones. Everyone that was on the field that was starting between UK and Florida, UK and Florida matched up evenly. Last night, though, was the first time ever that the ones were more physical, were able to outrun and able to out-hit Florida in the swamp, and then their twos matched up with Florida's twos, like you were talking about with Bahana being gone. And I forgot that he wasn't even back in the game until I saw him with street clothes and a boot on after halftime. I was like, wait, he's been gone the whole time?
Right. Yeah. Oh, those are good takes. Yeah.
To see the way that our just see the way our defense swarms, and then my gosh, this offense now is clicking, and it has turned into a three-headed monster with Benny Snell, with Terry Wilson, hopefully C.J. Conrad once we learn how he fits into this offense, but this offensive line. This offensive line, I have never seen a UK offensive line absolutely dominate and wax a Florida defensive line before. I've never seen it happen. And that was absolutely unreal.
Yeah.
And what a phenomenal job by John Schlarman. Unreal.
Yeah, that's a really good take. The offensive line, I mean, again, we don't get to say that often. And I don't care if people are saying, well, this Florida team's down or not, down. It's not the same type of Florida team. Florida, they still have the athletes. They still have 4-star players. They still have speed and everything. We've stepped up our game. And so, I mean, yeah, for us who have been hanging on for 31 years, I have to admit, guys, I'll start with you, James. I had this little bit of a notion, are we going to find a way to lose this game last night? It didn't happen.
Well, yeah, it was funny because usually the freaky stuff that happened to Florida happens to us. So you had the three main things were the Felipe Franks review where his first down got called back, and then then he gets sacked, and
right.
they end up with a field goal instead of a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had the missed field goal,
which was a made field goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the game, you had the sack fumble by Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
That Stoops is screaming at his guys, pick up the ball, run it in,
mm-hmm.
and because the refs hadn't blown the whistle, they finally did it, and Stuckey runs it in, and ices the game. How many years have we seen it where it would have been the other way around, where the ball's dead, the Florida guy would have picked it up, ran the other way, game over.
Well, I can tell you, 31 years, at least 15 times, that kind of shit happens to us. So
yes, exactly. So it's nice to see the bad juju go to Florida instead of us.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead, Max.
Well, no, and you brought it up, and the whole thing with the missed field goal, and then with the Felipe Franks fumble. I was sitting down, I was sitting and watching it with my wife and my parents last night, and as soon as that happened, mm-hmm. my father, who is 62 years old, jumped out of his seat and started screaming. Somehow he saw, because I thought like everyone else, I thought like the guy who even picked up the ball and reluctantly ran it into the end zone,
right.
that it was just an incomplete pass. I guess my dad saw it, or he was just hoping. He goes, pick it up before Florida goes. Go, go, go. And it was just absolute. I mean, but Matt Smith, Greg Lyle, and I talked about it today on our show that back in the past, old Kentucky, someone from Florida would have picked it up, kind of just walked with it, and then ran it in for a touchdown, game over.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think you're finally seeing where there was ways that old Kentucky could have creeped up, mm-hmm. but it never did. Never did.
Mm. Butch, add to that. Old Kentucky.
Yeah, well, I picked them actually 21-20. I figured, once in some, 31 years, I got to be right, But the one that got me, I mean, I was sitting there and we're talking on Facebook, like, oh no, we've seen this before, and when Mike Edwards missed that interception, I was like, oh no,
yeah,
there it is. This is the one, and they're going to take it down and go. But they never did. They just pulled it together and never got rattled. So. It was in the back of my mind, though. I have to admit. So,
after the game, they're doing their interviews. Clearly, this team, Benny, several of the players, they cashed in. They spoke from the heart after the game, and Benny was a little hesitant. He was getting ready to call Tebow out, James, and he refrained from it. But he said it. All he had to do is say his name. To me, that was enough. That's enough.
He got it.
Yeah. But look, the polls just came out. So 2 games in, I'm not a big believer of the polls until at least half the season, because no one really knows where how good these teams are, or who are the top 20, 25 teams. But Max, 2 games in, I mean, where do you see us? Give us that range where you think Kentucky is right now, as far as the national polls.
Well, I will go ahead, and I hate being, I don't want to say negative, but realistic. Yeah. Because UK's been in this situation before of a big win, all hype's going their way, and all of a sudden UK has found a way to kind of flounder that. But So I understand the AP poll. I understand not getting in the top 25 tomorrow, even though it received 19 votes.
Right.
I think the biggest one is going to see how they play against Mississippi State, and not even saying that Mississippi State has to be a win. Because in my I predicted UK to go 8-4. I predicted Florida to be a win. But this is the game that I thought, and again, not looking past Murray State, but I looked at Mississippi State being the first loss of the season. So it truly depends. There's ways, though, that UK lines up very well against Mississippi State. I think South Carolina believed its own hype. I don't think South Carolina's a team that SEC Media Day, SEC Network, ESPN, everyone said that South Carolina was going to be. I think they were frauds.
Right.
But Mississippi State, though, I think is going to be the real deal. And if UK can play well against them and come out with the win, and that should be a game that they shouldn't win, but this is a good team like we think they are, how they played last night, that one in Mississippi State should be the two games that they shouldn't win, that they do win. Now you've got them into consideration, not in the top 25, but even top 20, top 15 at that point.
That's a good take. James.
I definitely agree with that.
James, add to that.
Yeah, I see them right now in the top 30 range. I think that people are still going to be a little more hesitant to pick Kentucky football just because it's Kentucky football to be in the top 25. And then, you know, like kind of what we were saying earlier about Florida, what do we know about this Florida team? Okay, they beat a Charleston Southern team badly, but still allowed 200 yards of rushing with them. And then they got beat by Kentucky, who, you know, people aren't putting that much stock in. So, you know, or was Florida fraud, or are they actually pretty good? And Kentucky's just better. There's still a lot of unanswered questions. And I think Max's point of Mississippi State's a good one, because as a team I watched go down to Kansas State and just lay the wood to them. They've got some really talented players, you know, Nick Fitzgerald at quarterback, and then Kylan Hill kid, the running back position is just, you know, he's Saquon Barkley Jr. He can do just about everything. He's physical, he's strong. Mississippi State's defense is really good. So I think if Kentucky wants to make a case for themselves to be a top 25 caliber team, they're going to have to beat another SEC team that's ranked. And there are some teams that get the benefit of the doubt with the rankings, and Kentucky's just not one of them right now. They've got to prove it on the field. I think that they had the players to contend with Mississippi State, and that's going to be a really tough game. I'm glad it's at Kroger Field. So that's the game I have circled right now as okay, let's see what these guys are really about. This is a quality team from the SEC West.
Right. Butch, finish that take.
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree with that. It's the same thing we were saying. My son and I were talking last night. It's the Mississippi State game. And I said, you know, after the Mississippi State, South Carolina, and Texas A&M game, we'll definitely know where we're at by those three games.
Again, Murray State is next week's opponent on the 15th. It's a noon kickoff time, and then, as they were talking about, the Mississippi State game is September 26th. Time to be determined. Real quick, guys, Mark Stoops in year 6, he's beaten Florida. He's beaten Tennessee, which, you know, is still a rival. He's beaten Louisville, rivalry game. Does winning, I mean, I know we still we got to get to the bowl. We got to keep moving forward. But, you know, there's always that fan base, Max, where, you know, Stoops doesn't have the support. It's the should have, could have, and all this stuff. Does this a win like, you know, last night? How much does that help his cause?
Well, I'm going to throw some history at you real quick to everyone here. Do you know who the last UK coach was to win against Louisville, Florida, and Tennessee during their tenure?
Like a Fred Murphy or something, wasn't it?
Fred Murphy.
Yeah. And it's way back before we were born.
Like 1910, 1920. It was back when, after, I don't know if you all know how they got the name, but UK played against TCU and won 9-0. And the athletic director said during their chapel service that the football team played like a bunch of crazy Wildcats. And that's how UK got the name Wildcats from that sermon. And so my assumption is Fred Murphy was that team. So it's Fred Murphy and Mark Stoops are the only two. So you got a lot of people that have been extremely critical of Coach Stoops. Guys that have played for him knows that he is the right guy for the job. And I can't believe in year 6 we're still having to be apologetic about him saying he is the guy for the job when he's in year 6. But now you're going to get to this point. You had a mid-major coach in Willie Taggart, who everyone said was going to be the next Nick Saban. He was going to be the next Tom Herman. He's floundering at FSU.
Oh, yeah. Ugly.
Herman at Texas.
Big time.
He's floundering.
Yeah.
How much longer is Brian Kelly going to last at Notre Dame?
Right.
Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. I mean, you've got some coaches, and Coach Orgeron at LSU. You've got a lot of coaches now that are starting to flounder a little bit with these big programs. And now I think the conversation is starting to switch. And if UK fans play their cards right, you can keep Stoops here for a very, very, very long time.
I agree.
But if you don't, we're going to start having this conversation of we need to fire Stoops to how do we keep him here? So I think this is the season, just as kind of just a after-school special for everyone. Maybe it's not smart this year to be the saying, is he the right guy for the job? I think he's established that he is the right guy for the job. Now it needs to be, okay, now what are we going to do to keep him here? Let's sweeten the pot a little bit, and let's throw even a little bit more money in with it. I'm perfectly fine with doing that.
Yeah, James, jump in.
Yeah, real quick before I talk about Stoops, I mean, has anyone failed upward more than Willie Taggart?
Fell upward, yeah. I mean, he is just, I mean, it's, yeah.
Please, let me interject with this. I'm sorry, James, but I got put on blast by friends and family because I told everyone when Florida State hired him, I said, why in the world would you hire Willie Taggart? He's not a good coach. And automatically it just went to, well, it's just because you lost to him when he was at WKU. It's like, that's not the case at all. He did well at WKU. He was off and on at USF. He was a train wreck at Oregon. How in the world do you think he's going to do well at Florida State, which is a premier program?
Yeah.
It's real.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. I think what people forget with Stoops is the hand that he was dealt when he got here. The cupboard was bare. Things didn't work out with Joker. Joker was, a great guy, and I know it was hard for Mitch Barnhart to fire him because of this type of person that he was and the fact that he was a player at Kentucky and had so much success under Rich Brooks as offensive coordinator. The program was just in disarray. The talent just wasn't at the level that an SEC program needed to be to succeed and compete. And it takes a long time. We talked about it earlier. It takes a long time to build a football program. You've got to establish relationships with high school coaches and recruits in whatever your region's going to be. UK really focused in on Ohio early on. They focused in on Kentucky. They got away from Kentucky a little bit, but now it's been a priority. With Eddie Grand, they're getting more into Florida. So it takes a long time to establish those relationships and get the players for your system in. He's finally got those guys in. And I mean, he's beating Tennessee, Florida, and Louisville. I mean, what else do people want? I remember when Stoops was hired, and the fan base was really happy, and the mantra was, get us to the bowl every year and we'll be happy.
Right.
Well, he's doing that, and there's still people that are pissed off at him, and I just don't get that. I mean, this is Kentucky football. This is not Alabama. This is not Ohio State. We're not at a level where we're competing for national championships. Let's see what he can do. He's getting us to where we wanted to be when we hired him. Let the man do his job. And I had no argument with Stoops. I had no disagreement with Stoops. I think he's doing a fine job. I think his recruiting is excellent compared to,
past.
Just look at what compared to our past. Look what he's working with. Look at the facility upgrade. Yeah, I mean, if you're still not on the Stoops train, then I don't know what else you need evidence. I mean, they're not in the football playoff. Okay.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Butch, finish that.
Yeah, just like we said earlier, I agree with everything they said on that. And you got to figure this is his first head coaching job, so he's gonna have some growing pains himself. But I think he's got his system in and established, and the type of players and staff that he wants here, and I think he's taking us the right way. I don't. The ones that are wanting to fire him, who you getting? Who you going to get that's going to do a better job, or that has as much passion as this man has for this program? I just, I don't understand their reasoning on that.
I don't know. Do we have any ties to Willie Taggart? He would be due for. Well, let me throw this at you guys. One of the things that has been discussed, I saw on the message boards or somewhere. Cash Daniel, Landon. I mean, there's a group of in-state players who are starting to kind of make a name for themselves, and that's a good thing. That does, because there's some quality in-state players right now, that's in the pipeline to be picking schools, and there's a few here in Louisville that are like, four-star guys. So. Start with you, Max. What is your take with this kind of emergence of the Kentucky kids, making Kentucky State kids making some noise on the field?
The biggest thing when I was in a locker room is you wouldn't think a lot of guys would brag about it, but a lot of guys brag about their home states and brag about the high school talent as well.
Right.
You had guys from Texas, you had guys from Cali, you had guys from Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina talk about how their programs are premier. And then here, me and a couple of guys from Kentucky, it's like, we've got Trinity,
right.
We got X, and that's it. You need to give a lot of credit to the emergence of new coaches within the state of Kentucky. I'll go ahead and say one, and Mikey Benton, who's a former UK player who has been producing studs at his high school, being a first-year head coach.
Where's he at?
And I can't remember where exactly. It's at his alma mater.
Okay.
But I constantly see him coming up on my Twitter feed also. But you've got these kind of an influx. Even Stephon LaFleur is at Christian Academy.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You've got these NFL prospect, these guys that used to be in the NFL, played college ball. You don't have, and lack of a better term, and sorry, it's a little crude, but just some slaps that were backups in high school that got an ego behind them that they think they know better than everyone else.
Right.
You've actually got guys that have been able to expand their football IQ, expand what they've seen, what the physical body can go through, and bring it back to the high school level. You're finally getting it here in the state of Kentucky, and you're producing guys like Drake Jackson, Landon Young, Ashton, Jacob Tammy. I mean, you've got guys you were able to produce, and even Christian Academy's got a kid, a tackle that I got to see in person, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, Christian Academy produced that? It's absolutely unreal. So I think it's it's a nod to these coaches that came from Kentucky, that went to the league or went and played college ball, and they're coming back and serving these high schools and being able to teach proper football, but then bringing what they've learned at the college and professional level and bringing it back to their high schools.
James, add to that.
You just had to look at the Alabama starting offense, and you've got two Kentucky kids starting for the Alabama Crimson Tide. You got Damian Harris and Jedrick Wills, two guys that Stoops and company wanted badly, but when Alabama comes calling, it's hard to turn them down. So, like Max was saying, the in-state talent is just getting better and better every year, and that's why Stoops put Vince Marrow in charge of recruiting Kentucky, because Kentucky's starting to produce blue chip type athletes and football players, and it's not easy to watch these homegrown kids go to play Alabama, even though you understand why they're doing it. I mean, it's just a professional football factory.
Right.
It's like when kids out of, pick a state, Texas, don't play for the Longhorns and Shaka Smart. They come play for John Calipari and the Kentucky Wildcats. You understand the decision. You might not like it, but you get it. You know why they're doing it. And they're trying to get a foothold back into Kentucky, and they need to do it because, I mean, the kids that are coming out of the state deserve their attention. And the way Louisville's going right now with some of the things going on, I know we're going to talk about them later, Kentucky's on the rise as far as programs concerned. They've got the SEC, they've got SEC Network, they've got world-class facilities. They need to sell these in-home, in-state kids to stay and play for the state university.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Butch, finish that thought.
Oh, I agree with that. I mean, if I'm a player, you start winning some of these games like they're doing now, you're going to get the majority of them. You still won't get them all. Like they said, Alabama comes calling. It's hard to say no, but you start winning some of these Floridas, Tennessees, Louisville, and those kids are gonna start pouring in a lot more. And isn't there a kid at Butler? I know, a wide receiver that's committed to us already.
I think
it's a monster, man. Yeah. He's huge. They just played us this past Friday, and I mean, the kid's he's the real deal. So I mean, you start getting those kind of players in, and the winning helps bring them in.
Of course. Again, Kentucky, the momentum right now, it's strong. Everyone's still buzzing. It's going to be, we're going to be on this high for a while because, the next opponent, Murray State, you kind of looking past them to go get to the Mississippi State game. So this buzz of the talk with Florida is going to still stay pretty relevant. One thing also that I liked, Max, and you would definitely relate to this, is a lot of the former players went on social media and just gave the team a lot of love and respect. One of the good ones I saw was Patrick Towles. He said, I'm paraphrasing here, he's in Baton Rouge, and he was talking about how much he loves Kentucky. He's so happy for these guys. But last night meant a lot to past players, man.
It did. I couldn't tell you how many different players were texting me. Former players, all of us were texting back and forth. And Trevino Woods texted me going, "It's happening. It's happening." All caps. Zach West was texting me. He goes, about ready to run into the street. All these guys were just going nuts. And it was something, and especially for the 2014 team, for us seniors that were part of that team, and being in that locker room after that game. Football, I don't know your all's viewpoint of crying after games or not, but I always took a loss hard, and that one just absolutely punched me in the gut. And I remember sitting in that all-white locker room. My back, right where they were dancing after the game was right where my locker was for that game. I remember sitting in that locker room, holding hands with Zach West on one side and then Zach Myers on the other, and three of us just crying over that game because we felt robbed. We felt robbed that game, and then to see the video come out of them dancing in that locker room 4 years later, right. It made up for it. It truly made up for it.
I'm sure.
And just in the fashion, like we were talking about earlier, the fashion that Florida lost also, that It was UK in control, and finally it wasn't an official taking the game out of the players' hands. And I think that was the biggest one that we were all talking about, that the SEC officiating has gotten absolutely horrible, and I haven't lost respect, but I question the commissioner on not addressing it, because it's not just UK bias, it's watching all the other SEC games, and the SEC officiating has been subpar, horrible at best. And to see that last drive the last drive and the last few drives, with the exception of the missed field goal, which that was a field goal.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
But to see that last drive, they didn't take it out of the players' hands like they have.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it was UK beat Florida, no ifs, ands, or buts. Refs didn't take over the game for them.
That's a great point.
Yeah, good take. James, finish that up with the past players, what it meant to them.
I mean, it must. You think of the guys on. Well, before I start with that, Stoops has made it a point to try to downplay it as much as he can, because every year when that game rolled around, that's all that he was asked about was the streak. And I thought he did a wonderful job of just saying, you know what, that streak is about this team or these guys. But you saw the emotions and you heard his voice after the game when they interviewed him on ESPN and how choked up he was. It did mean a lot to the current players, just as much as it did to the past players, because they understood that stigma that you're never going to beat Florida. And you got the Florida players talking, it's going to be 32 in a row, and all those other things that come with it. And for Stoops to be able to keep that team together, to keep them focused in spite of everything that was going on around them, and then everything that happened after with the congratulations from former football players. I mean, you had basketball players, Dominique Hawkins, tweeting saying, I just woke up in Europe to a win over Florida, and Coach Calipari tweeting about it. I mean, it didn't just resonate with the former football players and current football players. It resonated with all athletes at the University of Kentucky. Yeah. That's how big that was. And I don't know if y'all saw the video or not, but there were fans waiting for their bus at 3, 4 in the morning to arrive. That's how much appreciation and how much that game meant to everybody involved with the University of Kentucky.
Yeah, I did check that out. Butch, finish that thought.
Yeah, it was, a former college, I played baseball in college, but, anytime your program is doing something well, it affects all of you, or something bad, if you're a part of the program. The interview with Stoops last night, his voice was cracking, the guy has so much passion for this program, and he can't do nothing but pull for him and feel great for him,
His kids, man, I tell you, they, from all indications, he's a player's coach, and they went to war for him last night. So it's a combination of some quality players, but also some good coaching. And
I agree.
So
did you see the picture, Kevin, of I think it was Benny Snell, I guess, after the game, it had him in a big bear hug, and it picked him up, and the look on Stoops' face, it just tells you, so.
I did see the little video of Cash banging the water bottles together and doing the Stone Cold chug, and he's badass.
He's awesome.
Cash is badass, man.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's a perfect middle linebacker, man.
Oh, yes. All right, let's talk real quick SEC football. The first 2 weekends, SEC, Max, has looked pretty damn good. Like yesterday, I think their only losses were against other SEC teams. So, top to bottom, it's been a good, showing from the other 13 schools.
I will tentatively say that the SEC all around is bad. Tentatively, I say that, except for Tennessee. Tennessee embarrassed us last week. Yeah. But as a whole, the SEC is back, and it's great to see. And everyone's been putting on a clinic. I don't know if they gave something out at SEC Media Day, if they took some of that water that they got in Starkville and gave it to everyone else. But, it's just a different physicality from every team with all these non-conference games.
Right. I agree.
And, my gosh, I know what happened last week, and you guys probably already talked about it, and then I'm sorry, I'm going to have to get off after.
No, we're almost done. Yeah, go ahead.
I hate the team so much, but the way that Bama spanked Louisville 2 weeks ago. Just manhandled them.
Right.
Manhandled them. There was nothing that Bobby Petrino could have done at all. No. He can guarantee you win all he wants, but it just wasn't going to happen.
No.
But and again, it's always, it's cliche to say Bama's dominant.
Right. But
the way that Bama has just absolutely dominated Louisville, and then again Arkansas State, but that's a good mid-major.
Yeah.
A very good mid-major, and when they have Tua in,
that changes the whole dynamic for that school, for that team. Good God.
It's unfair, man.
I heard a great correlation of it. It was like Tua is to a Bama offense what the nuclear warhead was to the U.S. during World War II.
Good God.
It completely changed the format of warfare.
It's a world changer, not just a game changer. But
exactly.
Still, wow. But to your point, is right. And I argued with a Louisville friend last week who said, "Thanks, Petrino, for giving Alabama bulletin board talk." And I said, "No." I said, for the record, you're going to get Alabama's going to bring their A game at the season opener, marquee SEC games, and the college football playoffs. Louisville had nothing to do with. Louisville could have said anything, but you're going to get Bama's best game day, from the opening game. That's who they are. They don't need. That team doesn't need bulletin board material.
To your Louisville friend's defense, if they didn't smart off, it probably would have been 49-14. He probably would have called the dogs off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'll give you that 50 mark. Yeah. Half-century mark mattered. Yeah.
There are two things that you do not want to give Nick Saban. Mm-hmm. You don't want to give him time to prepare.
Right.
You don't want to give him motivation because he's already one of these guys that's not even content in life.
Right. That's true. That's very true.
Yeah.
All right. Max, I know you're on a schedule. We'll let you jump off here, but thanks for hanging out with us. And we'll do it again.
Absolutely, guys, and thank you for dealing with all my technology lack of savvy or whatever you want to call it.
We'll
techno no good.
Yeah, we'll get it better. All right, Max, have a good night, brother.
Appreciate it.
All right, Max Godby doing his thing tonight. He's bouncing around, just media people, James. Let's see. What do I add? We've talked about Louisville. Let me pull their box score up yesterday. There was a game that I didn't watch it, but I heard the stories how, and Butch, you probably know, or actually either one of y'all knows how the delay due to weather, that the game lasted like.
And I think they had like 3 different delays.
Yeah.
One of my friends was saying that they were there forever and finally left, I think, after the 3rd delay. At one point they had a picture posted on social media, and that one whole corner of the end zone of their field was just underwater.
Oh wow!
And it was nuts. A friend of mine that used to play softball for me. She was taking a picture walking out of that stadium, a video, and they're walking through literally 3 to 4 inches of water in the parking lot out there. It was just, it must have just been even worse than what I thought,
Do you think, James, that somewhere last night Papa John was chuckling over the scenery there?
Yeah, the ESPN 680 studio is like right on campus,
right
at U of L. So I had to drive down there last night, and they had streets shut off left and right. So I had to go through kind of like a maze to get to the studio. But I don't know if you guys listened to Bobby Petrino's post-game comments after their win over Indiana State. I mean, that game was tied 7-7 at the half.
At half, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
And then I think midway through the 3rd quarter, it was like 14-7. So, I mean, it wasn't like Louisville turned on the gas and kept it pumping. I mean,
they actually made a quarterback change.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, exactly. He had to pull his quarterback. But the bigger picture is after the game, Bobby Petrino was just like, well, it was raining outside, and no, it was tough weather conditions, and we had to pull. It wasn't fair to Jawan, so we pulled him. I'm sitting there listening, like, is this Bobby Petrino, or is this like Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
Wow.
Taking Bobby Petrino and infected him. He was just like, oh, well, whatever. And I'm like, Indiana State had to play in the same conditions.
Exactly. What about the weather didn't impact the Indiana State?
It was dry when they came on the field.
It was dry. They played on the dry side of the field, the non-puddles. Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
He was the same way after the Alabama loss. He just kind of like, well, you just got to learn from this. There's nothing. I think Louisville's in big trouble. I don't know if Bobby's just kind of done with it now that Tom Jurich is gone and his safety net is kind of gone with it.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe looking to move on and doesn't really care about the season, but that guy he sounds like a goofy old man is what he sounds like, and I just don't think that team is very good. I honestly don't. I think that defense stinks. I don't think the offense, they have no running back. The line still stinks. They've got some good receivers, but when you're pulling, you had to pull your quarterback against Indiana State.
Yeah, and he was supposed to be the second coming, the way they're talking about him. And to me, during the Alabama game, he just looked extremely slow to me. He didn't look like, they were talking about he was this dynamic runner, and to me, he really did for that.
I gave him the benefit of the doubt against Alabama, which most game teams you do. But
Alabama make a lot of people look slow,
Yeah. So, all right. I'm with you guys. I think this Louisville team is going to struggle this season. 6-6 maybe at best. NFL kicked off today. Honestly, I have to admit, I have not watched a lot of or hardly any NFL today. I'm looking at the scores. I know Cleveland didn't lose, guys. That's one thing.
Yeah, they did not. They tied. And because Cleveland had a chance to win and got the field goal blocked.
Oh, really? Jeez.
I've got my brown shirt on with pride today, fellas.
Exactly.
Hey, you didn't
lose. Yeah.
We didn't lose.
Bengals
won. Right now, I can tell you the Bears are putting it on the Packers 17-0, and this game is not even that close. So.
Oh, okay. 17-0.
Rodgers went out for a while hurt, but I think he's coming back in this half.
It's a opening weekend for the NFL. I'm going to ask you guys real quick, and we'll get ready to shut it down. Which is your all's take with the preseason? There's been all this talk. There's 4 preseason games. There was a couple times the Rams didn't even play a starter.
Yes,
and I kind of get it. I know they're protecting, for big picture, but and there's talk now that they potentially will drop 2 or take it down to 2 preseason games and possibly add 2 regular season games, which obviously that's money driven. But James, NFL, preseason is arguably is the biggest joke because the players, the marquee players don't play much.
I remember I was watching a preseason game against Philadelphia and Cleveland. I think it ended up 8-6. I didn't watch it the entire way through. I think I watched like 5 minutes of it.
Yeah.
And I was watching it. I'm looking at the stands. And I'm like, these people paid money
on
a Thursday night to come and watch this. Why?
Yeah, I thought it was.
What's the motivation?
Yeah, I thought it was. You said Cleveland and Philadelphia. Who was that?
Yeah, Philadelphia.
Yeah, I thought it was the Phillies and the Indians. Based on that score, and it was like, good God! And when it was like, really? And you're right.
One of the announcers today made a great point. He's like, I think it was during the Dallas game today, and they were talking about, Prescott. He's still real rusty because they don't play during the preseason, So basically, you're coming out there for your first your real games that count. Mm-hmm. And it's basically a preseason for your starting quarterback, So,
well, they got to do something with it. In theory, college does it. They don't do preseason, so
yeah, why couldn't the pros?
Why couldn't the pro? I don't know
exactly.
I don't get it. All right, guys. Good conversation tonight, James. before we shut it down, where's social media? Where can people connect with you?
At Streble 82 on Twitter. And if you want to listen to me, I'm on the ESPN 680 here in Louisville post-game shows after every game, football and basketball season. And if you want to check out some more of me, go to seaofblue.com, and